Hey everyone, so One Piece chapter 1086 just came out, and we have a 5-week break up ahead. Unprecedented. But it doesn't matter, because this chapter was so absurdly good that I think we have enough stuff to talk about, to think about, to speculate about, for a good 2-3 months if we're being honest, so 5 weeks is going to be a little bit short. The amount of information we got out of this, I think it's unmatched by any other chapter in One Piece that I can recall in recent memory. Maybe chapter 957, which was recounting the events of God Valley, as well as all of the bounties of the Yonko and so on. But this interestingly seems to follow up on the events of God Valley in a way, in that we finally got some insight into what went on there. We know now that God Valley was a place that was ruled by a line of celestial dragons, the Figarland family. Shanks was found there. Oda has said, and I need to confirm this, so don't take my word 100%, but I believe that Shanks was found in a treasure chest on God Valley, which is very interesting because it turns out that Shanks is essentially, if you don't know, you know now, Shanks Figarland is his full name. That has been confirmed through Film Red. So, the Crown Prince of God Valley was left abandoned there in a treasure chest. I personally have a very interesting theory in my opinion as to why that may be, but we've got 5 weeks for that to come out, so don't even worry about that just yet. But the fact that we learned about the Figarland line, and it's not just any line, it is the line that is, I suppose, at the tippy top in terms of hierarchy among the Celestial Dragons, right below the Gorosei. We're going to talk about the Gorosei in a second as well. But the fact that we've just learned that the leader of the Gods Knights is Shanks' own father, grandfather, something like that, it makes my brain go crazy with the speculations and possibilities for matchups. Could we see Shanks versus his own father? Could Zoro versus Figarland be a potential endgame matchup, considering that this man is clearly a swordsman? Side note, we've had a ton of strong swordsmen begin to present themselves over the course of the last few arcs. Zoro's endgame opponent, I think, is it's one of the most interesting topics to break down right now. But again, more stuff to discuss over the course of this 5-week break. So, the Figarland situation, very, very interesting, particularly because, as was pointed out to me by somebody on stream, sorry if I don't remember your name, but a very interesting point was that the way we're introduced to Shanks' father, that's just what I'm going to call him for now, Saint Figarland, the way we're introduced to him is him saying that those who protect scum are even worse than scum, which is the total opposite of Shanks' philosophy, because Shanks, the entire way that his Grand Fleet works is that he protects the weak, who really have no place surviving in the new world, but Shanks chooses to protect basically the lowest of the low because that's just the type of person he is. So the fact that his philosophy clashes so hard, like so drastically with his father's philosophy, I think is a great contrast. It's, compared to a lot of the other father-son duos that we know of, Dragon, Luffy, Ace, Roger, in those situations we see a lot of similarities, right? In this case, Shanks could not be any more different than his father, which I think says a lot as to how much the evil that is within a lot of these Celestial Dragons comes from being brought up in a certain environment. When you extract a baby like Shanks and have him grow up in a separate environment, you have a totally different type of individual who is guided by the principles that Roger taught him, right? Same thing with Mjosgard. R.I.P. I'm still waiting for the official Viz translation. The way I read it, it seems as though he has been executed. I'm waiting for the official Viz translation to determine if he's waiting to be executed or something like that, and being determined whether or not he's going to be executed, but it seems as though he was just killed. That was a mind blower to me, just because I thought that Mjosgard was going to be important. I thought that he was going to be one of those Celestial Dragons that is a voice that opens up the eyes of other Celestial Dragons at some point, because Mjosgard is the best case study we've ever had that Celestial Dragons, even full-grown Celestial Dragons who have grown up in Marijoa, not just like Doflamingo and Corazon who are kids or Shanks as a baby, full-grown Celestial Dragons can have their eyes opened and have their views on the world changed. So the fact that that guy is gone, I think, is one of the biggest catastrophes we could have ever had at this stage in the game, because we kind of lost the one guy that could have been a voice of reason to these gods of the world. I'm sure something else will come about. I don't believe that Oda's going to end the story with all of the Celestial Dragons just being straight evil and none of them learning the error of their ways, but now an important door to that happening has just been shut very firmly. So, kind of tragic. People have been talking about how Oda is more willing to kill off characters as of late, and that's definitely the case. We just saw Imu, I have to call him now, declaring You know, the reasoning Imu had for deleting the Lucia Kingdom was kind of wild to me, which was just, it's close by, which is one of the most cold-hearted reasons one could possibly give. He purely wants to flex his power. He purely wants to mete out punishment. There is no greater purpose to this. There's no selectiveness to what he's doing. He's acting purely as a ruthless, cold-hearted god, which I think fits everything about how Oda has been building him up so far. I really, really look forward to Imu's reveal because he is shaping up to be one of the most cruel, most evil characters in all of One Piece. I'm imagining something like the morality and ideology of Enel, but with the intelligence and the ability to manipulate of Doflamingo, and an unholy marriage of those two previous gods that we've seen. So Im really is shaping up to be the ultimate One Piece villain. People were talking about how he may have actually showcased for us a glimpse of Future Sight with the vision that he saw of the Lucia Kingdom being destroyed. So whether or not he's got some broken, ridiculous haki to match his, his Devil Fruit, that remains to be seen. Would, of course, be fitting for the final villain of One Piece. And the Gorosei. I think the Gorosei for me I'm trying to decide. I don't know if Figarland was the most interesting part of this chapter for me, or the Gorosei. I'm gonna roll with the Gorosei, just because the fact that they've got Warrior God in front of each of their names. Because we've been debating, like, how strong are the Gorosei, how strong are they supposed to be? We realize now that they've got their Zoan forms, that they are clearly combatants. Where they're supposed to scale in the One Piece world. And I was under the assumption that we were going to have to wait until Egghead Island to find out. And we are going to have to wait till Egghead Island to find out exactly where they fall. But if we're trying to figure out, like, okay, are they going to be commander level or something like that, or maybe a bit higher? I think we can put that to rest now. Because Oda has titled them, literally, Warrior God in front of each of their names. That is not something to be messed with. Warrior God. And I don't think it should be taken lightly that each of them are named after planets, because the 3 planets that are missing are ancient weapons. Uranus, Pluto, Neptune. Those are the 3 planets that are missing. Everything else, those planets have gone to the Gorosei. So the fact that Oda is saving these sort of planetary names for the most important game-breaking, I guess, factors in One Piece, be those weapons, be those warrior gods, whatever. I think the fact that the Gorosei's names line up with the, right alongside the ancient weapons and everything like that. I'm not saying that they're each individually as strong as ancient weapons. I'm just saying the significance of them as military threats should not be underestimated. I'm not just gonna jump the gun and be like, you know what, each of them is stronger than a Kainu or something like that. I'm not going that far just yet, but there is no question that these guys are supposed to be maybe the strongest subordinates that Im has, period, right? It's between them, the Holy Knights, and even the Seraphim who popped up this chapter as a little reminder that the seeds have been planted for some other really broken additional fighters for the world government come endgame. Because the Seraphim, as strong as they are, currently giving the Straw Hats and CP0 decent difficulty in Egghead, that is the baby version of them, right? They're not yet at full potential. That has been stressed multiple times. So we've got the Gods Knights, led by Shanks' father. Who knows, maybe as strong as Shanks, we have no idea. We've got the Gorosei, warrior gods, named after planets, something that up till now Oda has only reserved for ancient weapons. We've got the Seraphim, who in their infancy are already a decent difficulty fight for the Straw Hats' best fighters, and who are set to eventually become, according to Vegapunk, the most powerful beings on the planet. Maybe hyperbole, we don't know. But these are all characters that are directly under Imu's influence. Right? They report directly to him. For the longest time, all we really thought was that the Marines were what we really had to worry about. The Marines were going to be the big problem with the world government. The Marines are just, they're the welcoming party. The admirals who've been such a fixture in One Piece, such an important part of our community power scaling debates, Yonko versus Admirals, etc. I'm not saying they're unimportant from here on, but they are definitely no longer the most important. And that is absolutely crazy. We have 3 factions that we're all heavily focused on in this chapter. Gorosei, Seraphim, and the Holy Knights, who all are now contenders for being maybe more important than, the Marines, the Navy, the Admirals, etc. And all 3 of them are working directly under Im. I think the armies of heaven that Oda is essentially assembling here is, the scale of it is basically going to be off the charts in terms of threat that the Straw Hats and company are facing. And I think that this is just so fitting for the end game that we're at, because it really gives the sense that the final war is going to be on a scale unlike anything that we've ever seen. The forces that are accumulated here require basically the Straw Hats to be allied with revolutionaries and be calling upon help from many of the other factions that they've befriended, etc., kingdoms, countries, other crews, etc., that they've befriended across the years, because there's no other way to put it. If you felt like maybe the world government was undermanned a little bit, it's easy to forget, but that was a little bit of community sentiment coming right out of Wano, especially after Shanks scared off Green Bull. It felt a little bit like, well, because we didn't know about the Seraphim, we didn't know the Gorosei were strong yet, we didn't know about Holy Knights. If you felt right around then that maybe the world government is looking a little bit undermanned, at this point it looks like they're the stacked team, and they've just been chilling out in Marijoa, biding their time. They've never had anything to worry about, because when push comes to shove, they've got an army up there that is way stronger than anything else that's on the Blue Seas. And they've got a ridiculous ancient weapon, which we can briefly talk about. Is it an ancient weapon? This is one of those things where I do need to read the Viz translation to fully understand. Is Dragon assumed that Vegapunk would never create something that would cause mass destruction, right? Kill a lot of people. Therefore, Dragon assumed that it must be some pre-existing ancient weapon. Okay, that's Dragon's assumption. What In is saying, on the other hand, is we're going to use the invention that Vegapunk created, implying that it is a weapon that Vegapunk created. But Imu also says, let's use the Mother Flame. So there's multiple ways you could look at this. Maybe Imu is referring to the Mother Flame as being the thing that, Vegapunk created. Maybe, but Vegapunk is also talking about how he doesn't have, an eternal energy source, right? And that actually sounds like what the Mother Flame might be. So we've got to... Did Vegapunk create an ancient weapon, and then the world government has a Mother Flame that they're using to destroy things, and Uranus is just something that nobody has at the moment? Or does the world government have Uranus? Vegapunk created the Mother Flame, which allows Uranus to be used. It's hard to say at the moment. Or did Vegapunk fix up Uranus or something like that, and the Mother Flame is just something totally different? We're gonna find out soon, I suppose, once we cut back to Egghead Island and Vegapunk, because obviously a lot is going on there with us trying to figure out what exactly the deal was that York made with the Celestial Dragons, what Vegapunk's deal is, what he's actually trying to do, etc., etc., what his true goal is, or the means he's using to get to his true goal, why he's providing the world government with the means to destroy islands and such. But there's so many mysteries to unravel here. I am cool with us returning to Egghead Island in a short bit, because so much has been set up outside of Egghead Island that the anticipation for getting to see Luffy finally interact with Saturn and get a gauge of just how strong the Gorosei are, how the Egghead Island incident is going to change the world in the wake of everything that happened at the Reverie, what the repercussions of all that are. I'm honestly really looking forward to returning back to Egghead Island. I've had my fill of the outside world. I think we've got everything Oda needed to set up. Let's go get the big climax of that and then get back to world building, and I think that's a really good pace. If Oda has more to show us in the outside world, I'm not complaining, but I think that he's done a great job getting us set up to have an amazing conclusion to Egghead Island. So that's all for this chapter review. This is the last chapter review for 5 weeks. Look out for the content I'll be putting out during this break. And if you enjoyed this, then definitely, like, comment, and subscribe for more videos.